Yo, 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 ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guys and gals, ghosts and ghouls, and everything in between. Welcome to the very first edition of the Big Buddha Potcast. My name, of course, is Buddha. I am your host, I'm your confidant, I'm your friend, I'm your guide. We're going to go on this journey together through a series of experiences and opinions and topics together. And, hopefully whether you guys agree or not, hopefully you guys are like-minded. But if you're not, that's cool too. Leave some comments. We can learn from each other, grow from each other, share information. That's the best thing about the internet, really, is that we're able to do that. So, the podcast will evolve from that kind of interaction as well. So if you, whether you agree or not, leave some comments. Let us know, you know what I'm saying? Well, let yourself be heard, you know what I mean? And that's pretty much what this is all about, actually. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a long time. I'm super excited about just getting it started. I finally have the will to do so. I've been doing music production and stuff like that for a while, so I've always had the equipment, just never really had the nerve. And right now, I think if any time, 2020 has been incredibly eventful, and there's plenty of topics. There's plenty of podcasts out there too, plenty of great ones. I'm just trying to offer a unique perspective, from my point of view, and hopefully I can gain some of your perspectives as well. A little bit about myself. I live in a small little town called Dupo, Illinois, and it's right outside St. Louis, Missouri. And basically, it is a little shitty little town that I love and I hate it at the same time. I've met some awesome people here. There's some great people that are born and raised here, but at the same time, just like any small town, actually, it has its pros and cons, so you will. But like I said, it's right outside St. Louis. Unfortunately, Illinois is pretty strict. I mean, just this year we have quote unquote legalized cannabis, and I was super excited about that. I felt like, when you turn 18 and you're finally able to buy cigarettes and people consider you an adult. It felt like that to me. When people were like, "Oh, you can possess and have cannabis and buy cannabis, and it's not illegal anymore." And I'm like, holy shit. This is fucking amazing, modern day, because 10 years ago, when I started smoking weed 10 years ago, dude, it was hella illegal. We had to, duck off some crackheads and, smoke in the back, and it was, some fucking Mexican swag brick weed. Actually, that's an insult to Mexicans. It's just swag brick weed, and it had, seeds in it, and, I don't want to insult any particular group of people because of shitty weed. We all had shitty weed, and it was just that era. I don't know what it was. And then there was popcorn nugs for a little while. There was some mids that you could get back in the day, but you can't find that anymore. Now it's either really good or really bad. And but the industry has grown so much. It's not just how they grow, but they've found scientific ways to, I don't know, there's a lot of smarter people than me in the world. A lot of them grow pot, and it's some scientific shit that they've done to up the THC counts, in some cases up CBD counts. What CBD does for a lot of people around the world is amazing. I like to get stoned, but not everybody likes to get stoned. Also, if you're a child, obviously it's not appropriate. So, giving CBD to a kid that's having seizures and it stops the seizures is amazing. So marijuana and cannabis in general, has made tremendous leaps. Also, a lot of people don't know, you make hemp, the cannabis plant can make all kinds of shit. It makes the hardest plastic in the world out of resin, and you can there's a way to make ethanol type fuel from it. Hemp clothes and even paper is super strong, way stronger than cotton or normal paper. It's a shame that it's been illegal for so long, but Illinois has done everything in their power to make it still illegal, even though it's legal. You have to buy from their dealer, and if you don't buy it from their dealer, hella illegal. And, if you have an open container in your car, basically it's an open container and it's a DUI, just like it would be if you had alcohol in your car and you're driving with it, which I totally disagree with. I'm a better driver when I'm stoned. I'm way more cautious. I have road rage when I'm not high, and it has nothing to do with me not smoking weed. It's just how I am when I drive. I'm really tense, and when people are stupid or they're riding my ass, or they don't use a blinker, or just small shit. If they get to a fucking intersection before me, and then they're wave their hand, they're go. That shit annoys the shit out of me, man. I can't stand people that can't drive. And if you're from Illinois or Missouri, depending on what side of the river you're on, you blame the other side of the river. Illinois is man, you damn Missouri drivers, and Missouri's you Illinois drivers and, all my local people all know what the fuck I'm talking about. And here's what I'm going to do with this podcast. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm just going to lay shit out there, and I'm going to let you think about what you want to think. And regarding the Missouri-Illinois driver battle, so to speak, I will say this, okay? We both had to take a driver's test. We both had to take a written and a physical driver's test. The only difference between Illinois drivers and Missouri drivers is that when I was 15 years old and I was in high school, I had to take a class called driver's education. And it was basically an entire year where we drove a car and took tests and all that shit. And at the end of the year, if we didn't pass the class, guess who didn't get an ID? We had to take the class again until you pass it. Then you can get your ID. You take the test to get your ID, actually. So it's like you pass the class to get permission to take the test, and then you take the test, and then you get your ID. Missouri, they were just like, fuck that. Just take the test. You could drive, which I support that, but I'm also kind of like, that's maybe why some of you can't drive. And I know it's a generalization. Some Illinois people can't drive too. Some Missouri people can't drive. I don't necessarily think the fault's on either side of the river. I just think it's humorous that we're always back and forth with that shit. But if you get pulled over in Illinois and you have weed in your car, it's a DUI. I don't need to tell anybody how shitty a DUI can be. It can ruin your life. You get 2 or 3 of them, you lose your license for a long time, possibly forever. And I don't find that to be an appropriate way to handle a weed situation. In a lot of regards, I think it's worse now than it was before it was quote unquote legalized here in Illinois. Because like I said, now they're giving DUIs. Like before I get arrested for an 8th bag, and now I'm getting that and a DUI on my record. Because they have they'll write you a ticket, if you didn't buy it from the store. So you get a ticket for that, and then you'll get arrested for the DUI. So they won't arrest you for the weed, but you still get ticketed for it. And, I had a ticket from 2019 that I got just before it was quote-unquote legalized here. And it was $500. I got caught with less than, I had $20 worth of weed on me in a jar. And I basically, I gave him the 2 grams. And, he didn't, search me or anything. He just, we searched my car, but he didn't, pat me down or anything, really. I was handcuffed, I had, my little vape thing in my pocket, and, I guess it could have been worse. But, yeah, he saw the little 2 grams. It was $500 for a fine. I thought that was asinine. But, we're all paying out of pocket anyway. If you smoke weed, If you went to the Illinois dispensary, there's one right here in Sauget, Illinois, a little closer to St. Louis than where I'm at. And, dude, it's like $80 for an 1/8. And I find myself in that line occasionally. It's crazy. That line wraps around the building most days. And that's just insane to me. We're all spending that much on just to have regulated, inspected, good product. And my thing is, I like to be able to choose sativa, right? So if I'm smoking weed, and it's all street weed, if I buy nothing but street merchants, normally it's a hybrid or an indica, because that's what gets you, lazy bones, all the tension. When you smoke an indica, all the tension comes out of your muscles, and you're much more relaxed. Sativa is a much more up, bright, euphoric thing for me. For me, it's low, makes me more creative, and allows me to be a little bit more of a normal functional member of society than indica does. And I think marijuana's helped me both mentally and physically, both with stomach issues and, dealing with depression or whatever I'm going through at the time. Even if I'm happy, I smoke, because like I said, I just like being stoned, man. I know it definitely helps me medically, but it also has tremendous mental benefits. And, I think, while there are some cons, I think the pros are overwhelming when you compare the two, most definitely. But the weed, I can't lie, the weed from the dispensary is good. I go there just because I like flavors, and it's just crazy, though, being able to walk in a store. I remember the first time I did it, I went to Colorado with my homie, and we walked in the pot store, and it was like a Mac store for weed. There was jars everywhere, and you could put your hand in it and smell it, and had a piece of paper. It told you where it was grown and what the parent plants were and how much THC it is and all this stuff. And, it's a totally different experience in the Illinois dispensary, but I almost it was emotional for me because I'd spent 10 years doing shitty drug deals in terrible places with strangers I don't know, and it, like I said earlier, we had to duck off to smoke it. So you get into a lot of sketchy positions just because you're trying to buy weed, and now I can go to a store and just walk in and buy it. And I think that's pretty cool. The technology industry has advanced significantly in 10 years. And I'm proud of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I didn't do shit to do it. I'm a consumer and I'm an avid marijuana advocate. But other than that, I just appreciate and consume for sure. 2020 was a weird year. You know what I'm saying? So far, it's been absolutely crazy to say the least. Weird is an underwhelming statement when I'm describing 2020. A lot of people are like, man, it's the end of days. You look at all the crazy shit that's happening. The Bible says this. The Bible says that. The Mayans said this. Maybe the calendar was wrong or whatever. My thing is, they've been predicting the end of the world since the conception of the world. How long is this thing going to last? We're a fucking rock flying through space. And we're spinning so fast we can't feel it or see it. You know what I'm saying? And so, it's one of those things I think personally that, the world's not going to end necessarily right now unless it's man-made. That's the only way the world's going to end is if we blow each other up. And if we ever wondered why aliens haven't ever made contact, maybe going to the conspiracy portion here, but if aliens are real, hypothetically, they probably did. They're these dudes are idiots. They can't even get their own shit right. They're fighting with each other. They hate. They're still angry over skin color and religion. And every great war in history has had a tinge of religion in it. You know what I mean? And it's just I just don't. I don't see the point in that. And I think if an alien were in their spaceship up there watching us, observing oh yeah, maybe we should make contact this year. They're no, they're still not ready. We're still driving cars and using renewable resources that aren't so renewable anymore. Fossil fuels and things like that. Not to mention oil and all of that. It's we're still using that stuff. How bright have we been when we've invented electricity and now we have alternatives and we still allow these corporations to lobby in our government and suck us dry and keep things essential that aren't necessarily essential anymore. And I mean that's one of the big things about money and not money. I don't think money is the root of all evil, but it's definitely money in politics and in media is definitely corruption and poison. And in my mind, and I definitely don't think the world's ending. You know what I'm saying? There's some definite things that make me wish that it would sometimes. Just when you hit walls, you dig deep on something. And you didn't want to dig that deep, but you ended up you couldn't stop, and now you know too much. And you can't unlearn things. That's one thing I figured out. You open your mind to something, and whether you like the truth or not, you end up being open to it because you've recognized something, that either made sense or something that started clicking, or maybe something didn't make sense enough that you ended up looking into it. And that's kind of where I'm at with conspiracy. I think I tell everybody all the time. So while the internet has a lot of bullshit on it, there's equally maybe more bullshit on your television. I don't watch CNN. I don't watch Fox. They're both feeding troughs for biased information for Republicans and Democrats. I don't think that either one of them accurately report anything. It's a fear-mongering thing that both of them are doing, and they're both guilty of it. And it's not just them; it's every news station in America that spins headlines and makes stories seem a certain way or do anything. And it's not necessarily all lies, but I mean there are some lies, And I think that while everybody values the opinion on TV normally, they tend to devalue the opinion of conspiracy theorists and people that are found on the internet. The reason why I find that to be a bullshit is because the internet is the last, in my opinion, semi-filtered, unbiased, way that we can share information with each other. Whether other people like it or not. My thing is, I think about, I have a bullshit filter. I believe in my own intelligence, so I think about I'm perceiving the information that I'm getting. And basically, like, some of it hits and some of it don't. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I have this bullshit filter, and I think everybody does on some level. Some people's are more refined than others. But you have to have one when you're receiving information, whether it's off the internet or off the TV. Like I said, I have a TV, I stream services, but I do not have cable television in my home. I don't watch any of the television news. And I get all of my information off the internet, and some people find that to be dangerous. It's only dangerous if you have something to hide. It's only dangerous to the people that don't want to have people sharing their information and their stories and their experiences with one another. They would rather control the narrative, whatever the narrative is at the time. It changes. We have different crises. We've gone through many since the beginning of 2020. We're now just over halfway through the year, and it's been absolutely crazy. And now we're at this point where, like, one of those things I was talking about earlier, where like, you dig too deep and you hit a wall, and you can't go back, is, I wanted, when I started hearing about, like, the DNC pedophile sex ring thing, I thought it was a joke. I wanted to like, chalk it up in my mind next to flat earth and reptilian shapeshifters. I wanted to, put it up in that category and laugh at it more than I dig into it. And I ended up just like, like many people did, the hashtag Pizzagate. Then you go to Frazzle Drip, and then you get to, adrenochrome. And then you find out about John and Tony Podesta and Anthony Weiner, and how this connects to Hillary Clinton and Obama, and even Donald Trump is affiliated with Comet Pizza and Ping Pong, and obviously Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein as well. He denied knowing her, despite having photos taken with her, and also she's been filmed with many Democrats as well. Obviously, like, my point is, I just don't think that either party is completely at fault. I know they like to spin that it's like a DNC Democratic sex ring, and it's not. This is just something that some elites, I don't think all elites are in on it or anything like that. I think there's like a cult or like a small group of people that are affiliated with one another, and some sick shit that they're doing. The more you look into it, the less you want to know. Like I said, you start reading those emails, the John and Tony Podesta emails, and it's absolutely sickening. I encourage anyone who's even halfway curious about it to do some research. I'm not going to link any posts, but if you want information, you can hit me up on my pages, and I can send you videos, PDFs, and stuff like that, so you can read the emails for yourself. And it's evident that they're not talking about pizza and hot dogs and things like that in these emails. There's evident terminology and symbology, both used by the pizza places, Best of Pizza and Comet Pizza and Ping Pong, that are obvious pedophile terminology and symbology, recognized by the CIA and the FBI. Like, that's not something that conspiracy theorists are making up. This is things that the FBI and the CIA have said, yes, this is terminology and symbology of pedophilia. And yet we have businesses and popes wearing robes with boy lover symbols all over it. And there's a lot of stuff that people don't want to talk about. I realize it's ugly, and I realize, nobody wants to think about that, and it sounds ridiculous. It really does. But like I said, the information in those emails is disturbing, and I encourage you to look into it. I'm not going to go into depth about what is specifically in those emails, but it definitely incriminates a lot of people, and at the very least, everyone mentioned or involved should be investigated at the very least. Not to mention, the Wiener emails. He sent he's a higher up in the U.S. government, sends nudes to a 15-year-old girl, and obviously he's paying for it now. They crucified him in the media, but on top of that, obviously the law enforcement have seized his computer and seized his hard drives, and they found some stuff on there, man. And I haven't seen all of it, but I've heard it's very incriminating, and I heard there's some video evidence that involves some very important people in U.S. politics, and definitely something that's going to be released in the near future. Not to mention Hillary goes on trial in September, so who knows what they're going to hit her with, or what they're going to let the lawyers, the prosecution hit her with. they might say that's totally unrelated to whatever they're talking about and throw it out of court. But if there is evidence, that kids are being tortured and sex trafficked and all of that, hopefully everyone that's involved goes down for it, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat or not, or a president or not. I think that it's important to hold everybody accountable for their own actions. Also, if I don't know about y'all, but if I'm even suspected of being involved or affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, or my name's on those fucking flight logs that go to his little sex island, I'm coming out immediately and dropping a public statement that clarifies my existence in his life. And if you don't, it's because you got something to hide. You know what I'm saying? There's something, and because if they have evidence of you and you come out and say you didn't, and then it comes out that you did, it's 10 times worse. Maybe not 10 times, but it's definitely worse that way. And I think, the silence is, in this case, damaging. I don't want to say it's incriminating, but it's definitely damaging in a lot of ways. Because there's a lot of celebrities involved in this, and a lot of politicians, judges, police officers, agents, all of that stuff, all involved in this. And now the newest thing involving it is this Wayfair Amazon thing. And while it sounds completely ridiculous, like the rest of this did before I found out more about it, it's also ridiculous that they're selling pieces of furniture for 10 grand. Very plain pieces of furniture and pillows for 10 grand. That, but these items are named after children that are missing. And this isn't like John or Susie. Like, these are very specific names that they're naming this stuff. And so, this huge conspiracy theory comes out about your business. And while I agree that it sounds ridiculous, you, instead of releasing a statement or providing evidence, coming with some receipts to show people that you're not doing anything revolving sex trafficking or anything like that, you delete the items off of your website, which makes it look like you're sweeping it under the rug. And I guess some people would say, like, okay, well, maybe they shouldn't, addressing it makes it real, and maybe they don't owe society an answer. And I would beg to differ. Same thing with rape allegations and anything to do with pedophilia. If you're accused of that shit, you are responsible for letting society know, where you actually stand. And if you're guilty, you're guilty. You know what I'm saying? I think that shit's crazy. It's the weirdest conspiracy that I've seen in years, and for it to be so recent is the nuts part. I don't know, man. Yeah, the best thing I can say is if you're interested, search hashtag Pizzagate, hashtag adrenochrome, and hashtag Frazzle Drip on Twitter and Facebook. And, who knows, man. You'll find a lot of the same information I found, and, watch it, interpret it the way that you want to. And, if it all reads as bullshit on your filter, cool. At least you gave it a try. If it doesn't, and, you end up believing it, I'm sorry. Like I said, I dug too deep and learned shit I wish I could unlearn. And, now I think about it more often than I should, and, it's just sad, I don't know. There's a lot of bad people in this world, and there's a lot of things going on, a lot of people pulling strings from, behind the veil, so to speak. And, I don't know. I feel like that shit should be brought to light. That's why there's a conspiracy segment on this show. And, I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to keep it light, and, if you guys got any topics or anything you want to cover or talk about, hit me in the comments for sure. The next segment that I would like to do is just something called, I don't know, I'm not going to call it story time, but it's fucking story time. It's I'm just going to share some experiences. Like I said, every episode's going to be a little different. So, not necessarily all revolving the same thing, but, right now I figured it'd be fun to share some experiences and make some people laugh. You know what I'm saying? We all could use a little bit of that. One thing I thought about recently and the last several years is how far technology has come. I used to have a flip phone when I was 17 with little buttons on it. It had to do T9 texting. It took 5 minutes to send a paragraph. And, but we all had like those girlfriends who could like super fast T9 text. And I was always intimidated by those kind of people because I'm like, damn, like they're really angry or they really got something to say. And the truth is there's it's practice makes perfect, and they could just, kids nowadays don't know shit about T9 texting or even before that, like where you had to like it individually like tap a button 3 times to get to C. It was always messed up, but we were never interacting on the level that we're interacting right now. We got computers in our pockets, and one thing I find not ridiculous. I mean, I totally understand it. I totally understand why it exists and why people like to use them, but I don't really. They're not for me. Dating apps are not for me. I don't understand it. We got. There's Tinder, there's plenty of fish. I don't even know all of them. I know there's a bunch of them out there now, and I think it's a great way to meet people. But you're not necessarily gaining any, like, positive interaction unless you, like, meet them, and then you're like, oh, I want to get to learn more about this person, and I think, like, that eHarmony advertised relationship happens, like, 1 in a million, you know what I'm saying? Most people are just using the shit to hook up, and it's, like, a series of disappointing experiences that leave people jaded and perpetuate the cycle of hurt people hurting people and promiscuous, and I don't want to like come down like if you're a monogamous or a polygamist, cool, you know what I'm saying? I happen to believe in monogamy. It doesn't mean like everybody has to, if you're polygamous and it's like a mutual thing, like you have a girlfriend who has other partners and everybody is cool with it, and you have multiple partners and all your partners all have multiple partners, like cool, just wrap it up, be safe. You know what I mean? But same thing with like online dating. If you're just swiping right on every picture and, you're having sex with these girls or these guys, make sure you're just, being safe for yourself. St. Louis is #1 for syphilis and chlamydia. So my local people, it's like, this shit is not a game. It's not a game, and I don't know. I think about all that, like when I'm swiping right on a photo, I think way too deep. Like, and I downloaded Tinder. I had Tinder for 22 hours total, and sorry to get some agua, and but I had it for 22 hours. I swiped right on a few girls, swiped left on a few girls. I felt like God. like that's way too much power for anybody to have. You shouldn't be able to like cast judgment on people based on like the selfie that they posted. You're like, acceptable, not acceptable. And I swiped right on a few girls, I swiped left on a few girls, and then something miraculous happened, something magical happened. I had made a match, and according to us both swiping right on each other, and Tinder saying that we have correlating, maybe not views, but we had like topics that we were both interested in that were correlating with each other. And I'm thinking to myself, this is meant to be, like this is how this works, right? Like I swipe right, I make a match, and actually it took me a few hours to respond because the girl who had swiped right on me, my match, my girl now, she's super like pretty, like intimidatingly pretty, based on her profile picture. I mean, it could have been like a 40-year-old man named Alvin or something. I don't know. But the photo of the girl was very attractive. And so it took me like 4 hours to respond. And in that 4 hours, I did something different. I found myself not swiping right on any photos. Because, like when you make a match, it's like special. You gotta just, embrace it and, trust that like God has like, fate or whatever universe has like put this girl in my life via fucking Tinder, and basically what happens is I can't remember exactly what I said to her. Like 4 hours passed and I ended up sending her like pleasure to meet you or something fucking lame like that. And she hit me with, she cut straight through the bullshit and hit me with a sentence that I'll never forget. And she was like, you're pretty cute for a fat guy. And so like I had some cognitive dissonance right away. Like I had this weird thing happen where like my balls like shriveled up into my stomach, but also like my heart like pulled down to my stomach. And like the angel on my right side of my shoulder was like, hey man, she said you were pretty cute. And the devil was like, yeah dude, but she said you're fat, and like so I was like halfway upset, I was insulted, and she complimented me at the same time. So like I was like like I said, cognitive dissonance for sure. And so I decided to return the favor, and I hit her with another one-liner that I'll never probably say again. But I said, "Too bad your personality doesn't match your face." And then I deleted the app and cried myself to sleep eating a pint of ice cream. I don't know if I ate ice cream or not, but I definitely got drunk that night. I remember not remembering the next day. But yeah, I deleted the app. Haven't downloaded another dating app since. I think that their frivolous interaction is shallow at best. And I don't know, man. Like, just, I don't know. Like, sex is cool. I enjoy it. Not a crackhead, though. Like some of y'all like got like 10 babies by 7 different baby mamas, and you ruin your life over sex, and you sneak out and you sleep with women you're not even attracted to. It's crazy, asinine. Or also like girls, and trannies and whatever, just being promiscuous. It's cool until it's not. You know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is be you. If you are naturally flirtatious and you're naturally promiscuous, cool. Some of us are more than others. That's all I'm saying. If you do that, cool, but don't expect everyone to neither agree with it or like, say you fall in love with a guy someday, but he doesn't necessarily subscribe to your beliefs or your sexual preferences. You just find out that, he doesn't have to accept everything you accept, and that's all I'm saying. As a single man in a dating society that kind of ignores how people feel, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we ignore how each other feel just because it's like I said, shallow interaction. It's just sex in a lot of sense. And yeah, man, dating apps has made this like a rinse and repeat type dating world, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know, like, social media in general is just shallow interaction in a lot of ways. Also, it's pretty cool. Like I said, like you could meet somebody and then end up, like falling in love with them or whatever. I'm sure there have been successful cases. I just feel like they're less often than not. But yeah, that's my funny little dating app story. Hopefully you liked it. But had a good night last night. My 2 homies came over, my friend Beans and my homie Amber both came over. We kicked it. We watched UFC 251. And, yeah, I was super excited. I was excited about the Jorge Masvidal and Kamaru Usman fight. And Kamaru's real name is Marty, so I'm going to call him Marty for the rest of the time here. But Marty and Jorge fought, and Jorge is a real unorthodox kind of a power striker. He's got like a little bit of ground game. Kamaru or Marty is also kind of an efficient striker. He's more like a traditional striker, but he has a pretty good ground game, and he's a very strong dude. There's a reason. I know a lot of people don't like Usman, but there's a reason why the dude is the champ. You know what I'm saying? But he played it super safe last night, and it made a super uneventful fight. And for people like me who spent over $65 for the pay-per-view, we're sitting here like, come on, man. Like the whole first round, Jorge was able to create some distance and got some good strikes in. I think after Usman traded with him a couple times, he had decided that it's best to play it the safe route. And he, from there, and the last 4 rounds pretty much, he mostly just smothered Jorge by pressing him against the cage and stomping on his feet over and over and over and over and over again. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Yeah, it was super boring. And then like when he did take him down, he had some good takedown points. And then he got some good strikes in there too, but I think the only ones that really fucked Jorge up were the accidental headbutts that he had given him. And those were the only 2 cuts that Jorge had on his whole face, was from 2 quote-unquote accidental headbutts from Usman. And, it just seemed like, yeah, he got his can rattled a little in the first round and then decided to lay on him for the rest of the fight. And, he landed like over 230 strikes, which is really impressive, but not when most of them are foot stomps. And, I don't know, like I said, it was awfully uneventful for the main event, as we're all so excited for. There's a lot of hype revolving around it. Jorge took the fight on 6 days' notice. He weighed 192 and then had to lose 22 pounds in 6 days in order to cut weight for this fight. So that's pretty impressive. What they did was, I've seen how they do it. They just pretty much starve themselves. They dehydrate themselves. They lock themselves in a sauna for 6 days. And, it does all kinds of bad shit to your organs and just shuts you down pretty much. But you lose all that water weight that's on you. And in this case, it was essential. I think he got some nutrients the night before a fight. Jorge looked good. He didn't look tired to me when he came out. He didn't look tired at all. But you could definitely see the fatigue in the third round, after having Usman lay on him, so often and for so long, and him being the better grappler anyway. I think that, that's what won Usman the fight. I think if he would have stood and struck with Jorge over and over, he might have found himself at the losing end of the fight. So while I was disappointed as a viewer, I could see why he did it, and there's a reason why he's the champ for sure. Also, another one I found was interesting was Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. And that was a really good fight, actually. It was like some good striking. It was a sequel to a fight that happened earlier in the year. And, I don't know. Like the first fight, Volkanovski used a lot of leg kicks to break down Max Holloway, who's an excellent striker as well. And I feel like that had a lot to do with his first victory. This time around, it's a lot more even, it seemed like. Holloway was a lot more conscious of that and came out a different way, prepared a little bit for Alexander, and he kind of stuck it to him. And actually, I thought he won the fight. I thought he had, round-wise, there's 5 rounds. I thought he won 3-2, and I think I saw a lot of other people, fighters and like-minded people online talking about the same thing. Dana White came out and said, he doesn't think Alexander won the fight either, but it is what it is. You can't leave it up to the judges, and I think it's easier to give someone an upset and not have them get the belt than to give someone an upset and make them give up their belt. You know what I'm saying? I think if someone's already champ, it's a bigger, like, because if it comes out the wrong decision, like say you make a decision, you say this guy won, and then like there's videographic evidence and people make a big deal out of it post-fight, it's a lot bigger of a deal if you've stripped a guy of his title and now another guy has the title than it is if you're just like, oh, sorry, bro, a loss is a loss. You know what I'm saying? So that was interesting, I thought. It's probably my favorite fight of the night. Another big disappointment of the night, though, was Paige Vanzant, who is somewhat of like a supermodel for the UFC. She's very attractive, and that's not enough in UFC, though. But I've seen her fight. She's super emotional. She's an emotional fighter, which in her case is a good thing. She gets amped up and does her thing quite well, actually. I've seen her fight other women, but not last night. She fought Amanda Ribas, and Ribas is from Brazil, and she is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist. And yeah, here's the thing. Most of the time in UFC, if it goes rounds, somebody gets submitted, it's in like the 3rd or 4th round, or 2nd round even. Like, they've tired a person out to the point where they're fatigued, and now they can get the submission. Paige Vanzant got fucking submitted the first round, early in the first round. And, I thought that was peculiar because she was online bitching about how she doesn't make enough money. And while I agree, like the pay structure is a little wacky and not everyone gets what they deserve. Some people are getting, what they deserve. I just, I know like you have a short career because of the nature of your business. You could get punch drunk and you could end up retired before 30. In fact, most people do. In that industry, and I think, I understand that, and so, like, that's why people should get paid more, but don't bitch about your money, and say Dana White needs to book you for fights more, and then you come out and you get submitted the first round. I don't know, maybe the other girl was just a badass and totally overpowered her, which is totally possible, but it just seems like Paige Vanzant wasn't completely prepared for the opportunity, and also Dana White kind of post-fight conference, he said she should explore free agency. So, if that's how she feels, if she can't make money here, then she needs to explore free agency, and he pretty much said that too, like, she got submitted the first round, so what's my incentive, pretty much. Yeah, it's interesting, but this is basically the format of my podcast, you know what I'm saying? I've taking you through a bunch of different topics. We did some comedy, some conspiracy. We talked about some sports, and I'm just pretty much, like I said, it's a stream of consciousness. I don't really have too much written down. Just gonna bring it to you like this every episode, and maybe later on down the road we'll have some guests. We're gonna discuss a lot of stuff, and like I said, interaction is important to me. If you guys want to leave topics, or you guys have any opposing or like-minded opinions you want to leave in the comment section, please do like, comment, subscribe, share with all your homies. Call your mom, call your mom's mom, let them all know. Big Buddha Potcast is here to stay. This is the first episode, first of many, hopefully. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a good year for the rest of the year. We've had a pretty shitty year up to this point. I think we can be hopeful looking forward after we get rid of this COVID-19 thing. You know what I'm saying? Stay healthy out there. Stay crispy. Love your loved ones. And make sure you tell them that you love them. You never know when the last day is going to be. It could be the end of days, 2020.